Ever since the Cambrian explosion 541 million years ago, complex life has faced challenge after challenge. Extinctions, climate change, tectonic collisions, sometimes all at the same time, have threatened to end the journey of life. While our Earth may be one of the only worlds that is suitable for life, it is still incredibly hostile. And for hundreds of millions of years, life was forced to squeeze through these bottlenecks. Until around 201 million years ago, at the end of the Triassic, when the rise of a new lineage of animals would mark the beginning of over 130 million years of peace and prosperity, a world untouched by climate change, tectonic processes, and extinctions, which was allowed to prosper under the rule of some of the most powerful and well-known prehistoric beasts ever known, the dinosaurs. But if there's one thing that we all know about good things, it's that they are never meant to last. 66 million years ago, at the end of the Mesozoic, a cataclysmic event would change the world forever, ending this age of peace and the age of the non-avian dinosaurs. Welcome back, everybody, for the last time, to the Great Dyings. Today we will be exploring the most recent of the Big Five mass extinctions, the Cretaceous-Paleogene mass extinction, or the KPG mass extinction. This is probably the most well-known extinction event out of the five, because it saw the end of the non-avian dinosaurs. We all know the classic tale of the meteorite that struck Earth and snuffed out the rule of monsters like Tyrannosaurus. But today I plan to go in depth and explain how just one space rock managed to change the world forever. But before we do that, we must first explore the world it struck. The Cretaceous is the ninth period of the Phanerozoic Eon and the third and final of the Mesozoic era. It began around 145.5 million years ago and ended 66 million years ago. It lasted for a grand total of 80 million years. And to put into perspective how long that is, the Cenozoic era in which we currently live, which encapsulates all of the time after the Cretaceous period, has only lasted for 66 million years so far, meaning this period is longer than an era. Which honestly isn't really a fair comparison, since the Cenozoic hasn't finished yet, but you get my point. The Cretaceous was preceded by the Jurassic period and followed by the Paleogene period and Cenozoic era. The geography of the late Cretaceous was just beginning to become reminiscent of how the world looks today before the end of the period. North America had just begun to form as Africa started to drift away from South America up towards Eurasia, where China and Europe were beginning to form. Meanwhile, Australia was still breaking away from Antarctica. And between this newly born Australia and what is today China was the Tethys Ocean. In between Africa and South America was the newly formed South Atlantic, which stretched up into the newborn North Atlantic between North America and Eurasia. Something to note about the continents at this time is that many of the coasts that we know today were still submerged underwater, which is partially why the continents appeared somewhat smaller and differently shaped at the time. This was due to the fact that the sea levels were almost 168 meters, or 550 feet, higher than they are today. This may have been partially because the Cretaceous was generally warmer than it is today, reaching up to 30 degrees Celsius or 86 Fahrenheit at the equator year-round. This would have melted the ice caps and caused the high sea levels. The climate was also very humid due to these higher temperatures. The Cretaceous seas were not a place you would want to go swimming in at all. In fact, many people have taken to calling them the most deadly seas in the history of Earth, and that title is definitely deserved. These prehistoric oceans were home to the long-necked carnivorous plesiosaurs, which could be anywhere from 1.5 meters, 5 feet, to 15 meters, or 49 feet. Other marine predators such as sharks also swam these seas. Out of all the fish in these seas, however, the most deadly was probably the Zipfactinus, which could reach lengths of 6 meters or 20 feet. They had needle-sharp teeth and were infamous for devouring whatever they could get in their mouths. But definitely the most deadly animals in this ocean were the mosasaurs. They were a group of carnivorous marine reptiles, the largest of which, known as Mosasaurus hoffmanni or Hoffman's mosasaur, could reach lengths of up to 17 meters or 56 feet. These enormous sea monsters are almost definitely the apex predators of the most deadly seas in the history of life. Under the rule of these great reptiles were some familiar faces, such as the ammonites and mollusks. So that's a very basic rundown of the Cretaceous seas, which means we can now move on to land, which is probably what most of you are waiting for me to talk about. Land life from the Cretaceous needs no introduction. We've all been taught about monstrous dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex and giant soaring pterosaurs like Quetzalcoatlus. But for the purpose of this video, I will give you all a quick rundown of what the land looked like at the time. The Cretaceous was the peak of the dinosaurs' rule, the time when they were at their most diverse and powerful. Dinosaurs took up almost all dominant ecological niches, from ruthless carnivores to gentle giants. Massive sauropods like Brachiosaurus towered over other animals and ate leaves from the treetops, and would become some of the largest land animals to ever live. Meanwhile, other smaller but still massive herbivores like Triceratops and Ankylosaurus roamed the forest floors, feeding off ferns and using their horns and club tails to ward off predators. Among these predators were animals such as Velociraptor, the ravenous feathery chicken-sized theropod, who hunted in packs and used its enlarged toe claw to grip onto and kill larger prey. Many medium-sized animals such as Ornithomimus and Gallimimus sped around avoiding predators and looking for food. And of course, we cannot talk about Cretaceous dinosaurs and not mention the most famous dinosaur of all time, the Tyrannosaurus rex. This disturbingly smart, monstrous theropod reached heights of up to 3.7 meters or 12 feet, and lengths of around 9 meters 30 feet to 12 meters or 40 feet, and was the apex predator during the last few million years of the Cretaceous. Dinosaurs were not the only land animals during the Cretaceous, however. The pterosaurs, a group of archosaurs which survived the end-Triassic mass extinction, were the undisputed rulers of the skies. Monsters like Quetzalcoatlus and Hatzegopteryx could reach the sizes of giraffes at around 5.5 meters or 18 feet tall. On the forest floor of the Cretaceous were the mammals. During the late Cretaceous, they were just tiny egg thieves, scrounging to find enough food as the dinosaurs' rule prevented them from taking up any dominant niches. However, that would not remain the same for long. Now, similar to my video on the Triassic-Jurassic mass extinction, I'm really only touching the tip of the iceberg here. There is so much more to the Cretaceous than what I mentioned. But once again, I thought it would be weird if the video segment on the ecosystem itself was longer and more in-depth than the one on the extinction. Especially since this extinction is probably the most simple and easy to explain, I really had to shorten the first section of the video. But anyways, now let's move on to the KPG mass extinction. The Cretaceous-Paleogene mass extinction, also known as the KPG or KT mass extinction, took place approximately 66 million years ago on the Cretaceous-Paleogene border. This catastrophic event changed the world and its inhabitants forever. In fact, the change was so massive that the KPG mass extinction ended the Mesozoic era and began the Cenozoic. Unlike basically every other mass extinction we've explored on this list, however, scientists have been able to pinpoint an exact and singular cause for this extinction. And because of the popularity of this extinction, the likelihood is you probably already know what that cause is. In the Gulf of Mexico lies a crater approximately 180 kilometers or 110 miles in diameter and 20 kilometers or 12 miles in depth. This massive impact crater was caused by a 9.6 kilometer or 6 mile wide meteorite. At first, scientists didn't know what to make of it. It wasn't until a layer of 66 million year old iridium-rich clay found in many locations across the globe was connected to this asteroid impact that things truly started to fall into their places. The crater and these iridium layers pointed to a devastating impact that took place at the end of the Mesozoic, which is now accepted to be the cause of the KPG mass extinction. Let's set the stage. Imagine the Gulf of Mexico, 66 million years ago. Dinosaurs roam the nearby shores, while marine reptiles swim just under the surface of the water, and pterosaurs fly just over it. These creatures go about their day, oblivious to their impending doom. Suddenly, without warning, a 9.6 kilometer wide asteroid slams into the sea at 20 kilometers or 12 miles a second. The impact is so sudden and powerful that the space rock itself, along with anything within proximity of it, vaporizes. In this instance, the energy of equivalent of 10 billion World War II-era warheads is released upon the Earth's crust. And the crust doesn't just buckle, it liquefies, thundering away from the impact point like waves. In minutes, the effects are felt all around the world in the forms of magnitude 11 earthquakes. No continent or creature is spared from these violent consequences. Meanwhile, back at the impact point, the throwing up of the Earth's crust has sent out massive tsunamis up to a kilometer or 0.6 miles high out in every direction. These walls of water drown the coast and kill off their unique life. But that's not where it ended. When the asteroid vaporized, it sent out a massive shock wave and heat wave that sent many pieces of debris from the Earth and the meteor out into orbit. Over the next while, some of this debris would fling out into space or strike the moon, but the majority fell back down to Earth. The moment these iridium-filled asteroid fragments first struck the planet, the Cretaceous period ended. These blazing fireballs falling through the sky every second heated the Earth's atmosphere up to oven temperatures for a brief amount of time. Those who couldn't find a way to escape the heat would have met a painful death in the now fiery wasteland that was Earth. But the meteorite still wasn't done yet. Upon impact, it also sent up many gases and smaller debris out into the atmosphere. This debris formed great clouds that shadowed the entire Earth and blocked out the sun for as long as 15 years. This prevented plants from undergoing photosynthesis, which led to a major depletion in plant numbers and the animals that relied on them for energy. This pause in photosynthesis would have starved the atmosphere of oxygen. The lack of sunlight also killed off the majority of the phytoplankton in the seas, causing the death of many marine vertebrates. The sun blockage also caused temperatures to plummet, plunging the whole Earth into an impact winter. Temperatures plummeted by over 15 degrees Celsius or 27 Fahrenheit. When the dust finally settled, the sun would shine on a very different world. The Cretaceous-Paleogene mass extinction, though it was very brief compared to some other extinction events, did incredible damage to Earth and its inhabitants. The main killers were the temporary blazing temperatures and the blocking out of the sun. Animals which couldn't escape the hot temperatures in some way were cooked alive. Then the lack of sunlight killed off most of the bases of marine and terrestrial food webs, the phytoplankton and the terrestrial plants. The death of these important organisms started a chain reaction as the herbivores began to die from starvation, which eventually led to the extinction of carnivorous animals. The collapse of ecosystems underwater led to the extinction of almost all marine reptiles, including the monstrous mosasaurs, ending their reign. Along with the marine reptiles, the ammonites, the well-known spiral-shelled cephalopods, which had first appeared during the Ordovician period, went 100% extinct. The KPG mass extinction event killed 60% of all marine species. Meanwhile, the effects devastated the land and its once great rulers. The dominant dinosaurs were being snuffed out as the ecosystems they were on top of crumbled beneath their feet. After many years of struggle, all non-avian dinosaurs would meet their extinction, ending the reign of the dinosaurs. Overall, the KPG mass extinction killed off 17% of all families, 50% of all genera, and 75 to 76% of all life on Earth. Now that we have explored the final mass extinction, we have completed our ranking list in terms of severity, with the Triassic-Jurassic mass extinction in last place, the Late Devonian mass extinction in fourth, the Cretaceous-Paleogene mass extinction itself in third, the Ordovician-Silurian extinction in second, and the Permian-Triassic mass extinction in first place. The Cretaceous-Paleogene mass extinction event may not have been the most deadly, but due to the popularity of the dinosaurs, it will likely always remain the most well-known mass extinction. As the dust clouds cleared, and the first rays of sun to nourish the earth in over a decade broke through, they shone on a very different world. A devastated world, still recovering from the extinction. A world of small critters and sparse plants, but perhaps most significantly, a world without dinosaurs. The Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, like all the other extinctions before it, changed the world forever. The extinction ended the Mesozoic era and began the Cenozoic, which is sometimes referred to as the Age of Mammals. Contradictory to popular belief, while it is true that with the dinosaurs mostly out of the picture, the mammals would eventually rise to dominance on the Earth, such a thing did not happen for many millions of years after the Cretaceous. For much of the Paleogene, many mammals were still small, relatively insignificant animals, which were ruled over by birds such as Gastronus. That's not to say that all mammals were like this, though. The first hints of mammal dominance began around this time, as they started to fill some of the ecological niches left behind by the dinosaurs. Over the next few tens of millions of years, the mammals and other animals left behind by the extinction would evolve into the modern-day animals we know today. And that, everybody, was the Cretaceous-Paleogene mass extinction, the most recent mass extinction which is famous for wiping out the dinosaurs and paving the way for mammal dominance. And sadly, the last mass extinction we will explore in this series. It has truly been a journey, and I have loved sharing it with you. And if there's one thing that we should take away from this video series, it's that life is fragile, and major changes, ones like what us humans are doing to our planet, can damage ecosystems, cause extinctions, and change the world forever. Over 99% of all species that ever lived are now extinct, but the less than 1% that we still have around us today is still pretty cool. So let's make sure that we don't accidentally cause a mass extinction like the ones millions of years before us, so that we can cherish this wonderful planet for as long as possible. Thanks for watching.